right now, Chanukah, it's like the season of miracles. It's a season to ask for miracles, to expect miracles, to ask for miracles. Right now, we're coming up pretty soon on night 7 of Hanukkah. It's not too late. Now is the time to ask for miracles. And we need miracles. We have hostages who need to come home. And we need to beg God to release them and to ask for open miracles. Every day, we are blessed to interact with some of Colorado's most interesting people. On this podcast, Judaism with Altitude, we share their fascinating stories with you. And
we have a great time.
And welcome back to Judaism with Altitude after a little bit of a break, a little hiatus.
Welcome back to Denver.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Yeah, I was away. I was in the Holy Land overseas, and I just got back like an hour ago. So we figured may as well just do a podcast as soon as I got back.
Shout out to our listener in Arvada who said that he likes when we decompress together after a long day. So if you like that, you're going to love this, because now we are decompressing after, what's it been, 8 days?
Yes. We're really sitting down to talk, honestly, for one of the, we spoke every day, but we didn't really with all the kids and everyone around, we didn't get a really schmooze, just the two of us. So that's, I think, what we're doing now, right?
That's it.
That's it. And we're letting you listen in on this fun moment for us. So thank you for joining us. And good to be here.
So Danny just got back from a Birthright volunteer trip, which took a bunch of people from Denver, and they joined a larger group, did a lot of volunteering and a lot of experiences in Israel that are unique to Israel. And I just can't wait to hear about it and be able to share the conversation.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. So, yes, if you remember, we did a similar episode back in, I think in July, about some reflections I had from my trip then. And the truth is, this trip was very, in some ways, it was similar, but it was quite different in a variety of ways. And one way that was different is, honestly, the time of year we went. We got there right before Hanukkah. And the first thing that was just amazing was, in America, obviously, the focus of the holiday season is not necessarily on Hanukkah, it's on different holidays. And you get to Israel, and you just feel in the air. You just feel the celebration, the excitement. Like you feel it. It's a vibrant, tangible feeling that you can feel in the air. That Hanukkah is here. The smell of fried donuts wafting in the air for all to celebrate and experience. And that was, I think, just one really cool thing that I noticed immediately. That was different.
Practically, what does that look like when you feel it? But what do you see around you? How does it look different than normal?
You sense a feeling of joy in the air. Every corner, I was in Jerusalem, every corner you see a massive menorah, that was lit up. You walk around the streets at nighttime, everywhere you look, you see menorahs, some outside, some inside, some with oil, some with candles. And there's just this festive feeling. One of the cool moments of the trip was, it's funny, I tell people that there's really 3 versions of myself. Okay, there's regular Danny, what I call regular Danny. There's ski bum Danny. And then there's Jerusalem Danny. And they're 3 different people. I don't know if that's healthy or not.
It's like IFS. You have your internal family systems. There's different sides to you.
Different sides of me. Right. And I just take on a different persona in each of these settings.
They're parts of who you are.
So, yes. So when I got to this donut store, it's called Mafé Yehuda. It's a Freedom Bakery, a French bakery, and it's really, really good. And I got there on it was Erev Chanukah, the day before Chanukah. And I tell the guy, I say, Shamati, shesufkaniyot haelu, achi ta'im ba'olam. Which means I heard that these sufganiyos, these donuts, are the yummiest in the world. He said, Betach, of course. And he hands me one. He says, alai, means it's on me. The dude gave me a donut. And then started turning up the music. He turned it up. So in this donut store, as soon as we got there, and this is what I mean by the celebration, they're listening to Chanukah music. Allah Nisiveya. But when we walk in, he feels the energy and he just blasts it. Then we start dancing in the donut shop on Hanukkah. So that's kind of what I mean. That's kind of what I mean.
If you want to see it, check out Instagram.
Olami Denver Experience Instagram page or the Real TikTok Rabbi TikTok page. Yeah, I posted a lot of these videos where you could see it. Like we actually captured that moment live.
It's beautiful.
Pretty special. Yeah, so that's one aspect of it is just the joy of being there in Hanukkah. And there's actually another donut memory I have. Went to a place called Roladin, and after I ate the Roladin, I felt like I was blissing out. I candidly have never experienced any kind of illegal drugs. I've never done that before, and proud of that, and not planning on doing it. But after I ate that Roladin, I felt there was something. I felt a euphoria, actually. And that was also captured on video when I started clapping in circles.
Can you explain? Because I just briefly, I saw the video and I saw the picture of the donut, and it's so decadent. I'm just having a hard time grasping, like, what is it? What am I looking at?
You're looking at some fresh donut goodness with caramel and like a mocha flavor.
Filling or
filled
topping?
And topped. Just everything at once.
There's like a cookie or wafer or something on top?
A wafer on top, and then the cream. One of them was like a white chocolate Oreo situation thing. And the cream just gets all over your face. And the immediate reaction that we all had was we started spontaneously singing. La 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 la. Or no, we did Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Ay, 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 ay. It was basically just saying, blessed are you, God. Thank you, God, for this moment. And that was very special. So those are maybe some, I don't want to say superficial moments, but another cool thing about the experience was just, and I've said this before, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but I truly believe in my heart it would be worth traveling to Israel every year for whatever it costs, even for one day. You don't even have to spend the night there. For one, just to breathe in the air of Eretz Yisrael, the holy air infuses you with vibrancy and excitement and rejuvenation. For one, and when you pray at the kotel, like the whole trip is worth it for one trip to the kotel. And we were blessed in the early days of the trip. We went often multiple times a day. We'd daven sunrise, nates, where you're davening there. Everyone's davening, hundreds of people. And suddenly, when the clock strikes sunrise, it gets silent and everyone starts their prayer to God at the same time. And that was very powerful. The Gemara says it's a beautiful thing to do, a great way to daven. And I'm sure maybe some of our listeners could relate to this. So the interesting thing for me about Jerusalem in general and the Kotel in particular are those same streets that I walked throughout my life at different points of my life. I'm now revisiting those same streets again, years later, having lived more of my life. It's almost like bookmarks in the trajectory of our lives. And you start thinking, like I used to walk the streets in the Jewish quarter to go to learn or to go to the Kotel when I was in college at Hebrew University. And then later when I was a rabbinical student. And then later when I would do a birthright trip that I staffed. And one thing that I noticed when we were at the wall, and I don't think I told you this, but it was davening at the Kotel now, right? Like davening now at the Kotel. Now that I'm blessed, we just celebrated our 18-year anniversary. We have 8 children. Davening at the Kotel in a place where my tefillos, my prayers have been answered positively from when I first started asking for these things 20 years ago, right? Like when I was in Hebrew University, I'm sure I was at the wall begging God to bless me with a family and an amazing wife and beautiful children. And I remember, yeah, in a picture I one time drew on, what was it called? Microsoft Paint. I drew a picture of Sarah and me and four kids on one side of the table, four kids on the other, eight kids, which is what we have. And like I was praying this for this. I was asking Hashem for this kind of life. And then to be there at that same place where I asked that for, and to realize that Hashem gave me all of that, it was overwhelming. And I'm gonna keep it together now. I'm not gonna start bawling, but get to that prayer of modim. It's like the tears just flow like freely. Like, thank you Hashem for everything you've given me in my life. And just various parts of davening is just so emotional and so intense, and you feel the kedusha so powerfully, the holiness so powerfully. So that was really special to be there. No, don't get me wrong. We need consistent prayers to Hashem, and we have consistent prayers and things we need to ask for. But to stop for a moment and reflect on everything that's been given was awesome, because I think in life sometimes that life gets so busy and hectic, and there's carpools and there's this and that sometimes it's hard to just pause and notice all of the goodness you've gotten in your life. And that was very powerful to feel that, very, very special. So that was another interesting takeaway.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I remember it's just jogging my memory to last time we did this when you got back from your other trip. And I remember first we spoke about the food and then we got into meaningful experiences. And I'd love to hear some more meaningful experience. And then you shared also that there were so many moments of what we call hashgacha pratis, of where you just so clearly see God's divine intervention and how things work out. And I'd love to hear some examples of that also.
Sure. So one magical moment of hashgacha pratis was, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where we're going to my favorite restaurant in the world, Quesadillas and Titos. And thank God it was rocking, it was busy. And me and my buddy just got our order in before they had to stop orders for 15 minutes because it was so busy.
Whoa.
So that was crazy as hashgacha pratis, because I was able to I didn't have to wait like my friends did, and I could get it sooner. But another cool example of hashgacha pratis, again, and this is cool on Chanukah too, because like on Chanukah we notice these miracles that aren't necessarily open miracles, but like it's God running the world and sometimes giving us a kiss on the head, showing us He's with us, and giving us little glimpses of Him. And the Chanukah, part of our job is to notice those things. So when I first got in Israel, I worked out with my sister, who happened to drive by the airport every Tuesday about 2:30. So we worked out that I'm landing about 2. I'd call her when I'm out, and sure enough, I give her a call when we get out of baggage, and she says, "Oh, it just so happens to be I'm literally pulling right now into the passenger pickup line. I'll be there in 20 seconds." Literally.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a massive miracle, but today Sarah picked me up from the airport. It was very nice, thank you. And we tried to plan it right. And my bags took time, and she had to wait in the lot, in the cell phone lot, for a few minutes. But without trying and without planning, we were able to have my sister pick me up immediately when I got there.
Just so sweet, because the thought going through my head was, I don't want you waiting for me in the airport, and you didn't want me to have to wait for you in the cell phone line.
That's right. That's sweet. Right. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Those stories are so important.
Yeah. This is a little side tangent, but I had a meaningful conversation with a good friend, and I told her it was our anniversary, and she said, what could you tell us? You know, she's recently married. What can you tell us? Like, what's your secret? And I said, I don't know what I do, but my wife is just a saint. And she always, let's say I forget to take out the garbage. Like, she doesn't like hold a grudge for that. She's understanding and judging favorably. I'm sure it's not always easy, but when she does that, of course I do that too. And it's just this beautiful spiral of just happiness. And when you choose and you opt not to escalate things that you otherwise could, I feel like that's just a very good recipe. So thank you. You're amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe this could be a peek into another episode we could do maybe for our anniversary. We could talk about marriage.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea. Our Hebrew anniversary is coming up. Maybe in honor of that, we could do that. Excellent. But yeah, other just profound, meaningful moments on this trip. There were really so many. There were so many. One of them was actually the farmers. We worked a lot on fields on this trip, and it just became clear that after the war, it's interesting. When the war started, so the farmers lost their workers. Like they really lost their workers. They had either foreign Thai workers or they had Palestinian workers. And the government has decided that they're not allowing the Palestinian workers in to do the work. Interestingly, one farmer told us he was very upset with that policy, which surprised a lot of us because in Gaza, a lot of the intelligence that the attackers got from Hamas was because of these workers. And the other farmers told us that they supported the policy and it makes their lives harder, but for the sake of the security of Israel, like it was something they'd have to figure out. But what emerged either way is that because they lost their workers, our being there was that much more important to them and that much more necessary. So we did all kinds of work. Interestingly, in the summer, it was like uprooting rotten tomatoes because no one was there to pick them. So they had to prepare for the new harvest or the new planting. This time was more maintaining and supporting the growth. It was very interesting being involved in this agriculture at this other stage. It was much nicer weather, really special, really beautiful. We did different things, pruning. We pruned olive branches, and I actually tried a raw olive. It was not so delicious. And then we also pruned grapevines, and that was a lot of fun. So, and then we did the tomato plant grows, and we had to actually tie a rope around it to support it because it's going to get really big. So it was super cool, and we did that yesterday. So that was very meaningful as well. Another meaningful thing we did that we did not do last time was we went to Sderot, which obviously is on the border with Gaza, and we looked into Gaza, and we heard about the story of the battle for the police station in Sderot. I had not heard much about this, but on October 7th, the police station was overtaken by terrorists. And there are crazy stories of heroism that, again, usually you hear these stories that are like from the Holocaust or things that are way long ago. But this is from a year and a half ago, a little less, right? And to be in that spot a year later where this happened and these heroes of these people who lived here in these houses and they still do, it was very powerful to be there and to see that. So that was very special to see that. I would also say that one of the most profoundly special moments of the trip was the other night. We were able to bring donuts and some holiday cheer to an army base, kind of in the middle of nowhere near Jericho, near the Dead Sea in Jericho. And we visited a base where these soldiers were just honestly recently called up, recently drafted, I should say. They're young, and they had to spend their Hanukkahs away from home, doing basic training. And we're able to bring. We brought I think 600 donuts to them, and we brought a big speaker, and we like brought the party, and they were overjoyed. And it's kind of funny because throughout the trip, my friend and I, sometimes jokingly, we were just saying, yeah, we're just doing our part. We have the soldiers in Gaza, they're doing their part. And me, I'm cutting branches on an olive tree, I'm doing my part, as if they're closely related. But, we did this jokingly, we said this. But it was very powerful because the soldiers were genuinely moved. They were touched. Like you could see on their faces how touched they were that we came to them. And how happy they were. They've been eating like tuna and sardines, and now they were able to eat donuts. And I told them, I said, I'm a rabbi. Tonight back then was the fourth night of Chanukah. I'm saying, I'm telling you, religious duty, you should have one donut per night it is. So I was trying to get them to eat more donuts. But the point is that it was they were very moved that we came, and it showed that our presence alone really did mean something. We sometimes joke, like, what are we really doing in the big scheme? Like, what are we accomplishing? But we really uplifted them, and it was very moving to see that, and very powerful and special to see these holy soldiers who were singing songs of emunah, of faith in God. How Hashem loves me. Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. These holy soldiers defending our people. It was very, very special to see that.
So powerful. There's a whole country. There's so much to be done.
Right.
And that's a good question. It's a good point of what difference does one group coming along make. But when you, and for sure, it's helpful when you're pruning the olives, and it helps that farmer and it gets them a little bit farther in their work. For sure, it makes a difference for them. But then also, when you bring the smiles and the ruach, the joy, the atmosphere, and the support to the people, that alone is worth so much.
Yeah, and honestly, I encourage you, if you're listening, to check out the Olami Denver Experience Instagram page again. I made a great video on that platform showing some of the joy we brought. So do check that out. It was super cool. Yeah, and then I'm trying to think. I'm sure I'm missing some moments here, but just one thing that kind of came to mind is, dude, as we're there, like, it's very clear this is the place where Jews belong. Like, it's very, very clear. And I think there was at least one moment on the trip where, maybe even more than usual, I was like, oh, dude, let's just move here. Like, I'll get you guys flights, come on over, join me. What are we doing in America? I've probably said before, I feel like a Jew not in Israel is like a polar bear in the Bronx Zoo. I heard that idea from, I think, a rabbi named Rabbi Judah Michel, who quoted another rabbi. And it's really our natural habitat. Like, it really, really is our natural habitat. It's so beautiful that we looked around and we just see Jews everywhere, of different kinds and different ways of practicing, but Jews everywhere. And like I said, it's this thing you can't describe that you feel in the air. And you get a sense that we really do belong here. So there's a thought that maybe we should live here. It's so much more spiritual. You're naturally so much more connected. It's more connecting. Like, you always feel connected.
I heard a great quote on that.
Oh.
From Dov Bear Cohen. I was listening to his podcast while you were in Israel. And he said, our goal isn't to feel connected to God, talking about spirituality. You are connected to God. You're a soul. You have a piece of God within you. Your goal is to feel that connection. And that's a place we strive.
The goal is not to be connected, you are. The goal is to feel the connection.
Right. Like, you have this innate, strong connection, but we don't always tap into it.
Right. And I would argue it's much easier to tap into it in Israel. It's just so natural. My rabbis used to say that as history unfolds, you could be a part of it from courtside seats on the field, on the court itself, or in the bleachers. To some extent, in America, we're more in the bleachers. And it's very, very connecting there. And it's very easy to get inspired, to feel inspired. And it's harder to do that here. So there's certainly thoughts of like, well, why don't we just all go there? Why don't we belong in Israel? It's more inspiring. We visit the Kotel.
It's just like there's something special of celebrating your holiday with your family.
With your people, with your family.
This is how it is. It's a whole big country that we're one big family. And to be able to join that one big family festivity, it's like, right, when you go to a carnival and you're all there together, like a Chanukah carnival, right? It's like one celebration. So too, being in the country and interacting with the family who came in from Morocco and those who came in from Ukraine, and everywhere that everyone is coming from, we're still all one family. And to be able to have that connection during the holiday or any time is really special.
And it's our party. It's we're a part of it. We're not an outside observer. Like, it's our celebration. So it was very, very powerful and special to be there. So then the question is, well, if that's the case, then why don't we go there? And it's interesting also because every time I go there, and I think I'm not sure if I'll be able to describe this, properly in words or not. But every time I go to Israel, I'm like determined to somehow bring something back with me, something back from Israel with me. Oh,
You brought a lot of stuff
I
back
did bring
with
things
you.
back. Sarah's laughing.
We have a pile, you can't see. We have a pile so piled high from the counter to the cabinet, at least, of bags, packages of Crembo and wafers
And marzipan rugelach.
You didn't take out the
I
marzipan, yeah.
I actually bought a carry-on bag so I could stuff in all the marzipan rugelach I bought. So I did bring stuff back with me. So it's funny you say that, but that's not what I meant. I meant like spiritually. I get so inspired, and I often get so despondent because I'm leaving there, and then what? And then it's sad. I'm like, so what can I bring back with me from the inspiration there? And of course, we need to figure out what to bring back with us. But one of my thoughts that came to mind this time is that the kedusha and holiness of Eretz Yisrael, of Israel, is so intrinsic, so natural, but it's there. It's in Israel. Like, it occurred to me, I can't bring it back with me. I can't, because the whole point is it's there. It's that feeling of there, that natural habitat of where we belong. That's there. So I came to terms with the fact I can't really bring that. I can't bottle up and bring it back with me. Now I can come back here and try to remain inspired and take certain things on, and of course I should. So I focus on living in the moment, just being in the moment. I remember one evening I had a couple late nights. One late night with Uncle Herb, watching the Broncos, what I thought would be a replica when I watched the Broncos with him years ago on an overtime thriller where Tim Tebow threw a strike to Demaryius Thomas. So this year I was able to watch a game with him also because I thought we'd make the playoffs for the first time in 9 years and I'd be able to watch it with him. So I stayed up all night watching it, and we tied it up to go into overtime, whatever. We ended up blowing it in terrible fashion. But the next night, after volunteering on the army base, I was able to, me and my buddy went to Cafe Ramon. And again, we just looked around and we're like, where else could we do this? It's 11:30 at night. We're eating this nice restaurant. And then after that, I went to a bar and we closed out the bar, meeting some friends. But the point is, like, it occurred to me that I can't bottle up this feeling I feel at the Kotel or walking the streets of Jerusalem or in the donut shop or in the Mexican restaurant. I can't take that with me. And so what I did was I really focused on living in the moment and just appreciating every second and remembering how important it is to go back as often as I can to get that jolt of inspiration. And there's something comforting in that. Just knowing I can't quite bring it back with me, but I can go back for the inspiration when needed. And there's a thought that comes into your mind as you're going through this experience. Well, why don't we just stay here? Why don't we just move, pick up the family, and come here? This is where we'd rather be. I think there's no question. This is where we belong. So why don't we? And I can't remember if we've like hashed this out ever on Judaism with altitude or not. But long story short, is we were planning to make Aliyah years ago, and then we saw that we were finding an ability to connect with the American Jewish community here. We didn't grow up with much Jewish background, but we're able to connect with these holy souls here. And we asked a great rabbi for some advice, and he advised that we stay in America. And so we decided that we're going to try to stay in America and reach the American Jewish community the best we can. And that's like our purpose. That's maybe the reason why we have the background we have and the talents and the skills we have, is so we can be here serving the community in the diaspora. That doesn't mean we wouldn't rather be there, but we're needed here. And there was a lot of comfort. And despite those gnawing feelings of a desperate desire to be in Israel for good, there was also a very satisfying feeling knowing that we're where we should be and where we ought to be and we're doing our thing, and please God, we're making a difference. So there's a lot of comfort in that. It's mixed feelings because on one hand wanting to be there, but on the other hand knowing that we're doing the right thing and being dedicated. If we're going to be in America, we better put in everything we got to justify being here. And so for us, I'm very confident we're doing the right thing. But for you listening, dude, I strongly consider you. I'm sorry. I'm slurring my words. I'm jet lagged. I'm trying to not sit down in my usual seat, my couch spot, because if I do, it's over. So I'm going to try to make it without taking a nap. But I am slurring my words a little. I strongly urge that you can urge or encourage you, listener, to consider if maybe that would be a place that makes sense for you to live.
Even just go and spend some time there and experience it for yourself, what it's like to be there through the holidays, different holidays. Feel the energy, connect with those members of your family you haven't seen in a long time. Literally, and maybe even if you have, and also the whole Jewish people.
Right. If nothing else, exactly, do what you just said. Go for a visit. Come with us when we go back on this trip in the summer. Come in the summer with us. Better would be go there for a while. Go there for 6 months, a year, maybe study a little bit, and consider raising your family there. It's the place where Jews should be. I really believe that. Really believe it. So, listen, we're in the diaspora. We're in exile. The Mashiach is not here yet. So there's room for us. There's a role for some of us out in the diaspora, and I support that too. But man, if you can get over there, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. So that was interesting. Actually, that comment of that was interesting was on the thing I'm about to say. But you're just seeing my jet lag unfold live in your eyes. That was beautiful. That's what I meant to say. I have an interesting memory from last night when I was ready to get on the airplane. So, little disclaimer, it was interesting. When we're driving down to the south, what they call Otef Aza, my Hebrew's getting better. Shout out to an amazing show on LL called The Vort. It's reality TV for Haredis, for black-hatted Orthodox Jews. They show shidduch dates with like really religious people. It was awesome. I watched all 8 episodes, 4 on the way there, 4 on the way back.
Who knew religious dating could be so exciting?
It's awesome. Go check it out. Really, really good. Where was I going with that? Oh, my Hebrew's getting better. Anyway, so on the way down to the south yesterday, the tour guide said, just so we know, we need to go over siren protocol. So she said, who here has ever heard a siren before? You know, when our genocidal anti-Semitic terrorist enemies launch rockets or bombs or missiles at civilian centers. Who has ever experienced that before? And I look around, it's like half the bus has experienced it. And I was surprised myself. I'm like, I've lived here for, in total, about 2.5 years, been on countless trips. Never once did I ever hear that in my life. And so she tells us what to do. You know, if you're near a shelter, you go to the shelter, but be careful because people often trip and fall on the way to the shelter and they get hurt. That's how they get hurt usually. If you're in a field, you get down and you cover your head. And they told us like the protocol. Interesting. Okay. So we go to the Gaza envelope. We go to the Nova site and all the sites they wrote and nothing. I did make a video actually just pointing out, went to a shopping center in Sderot. And it's like, I often go to shopping center at Target parking lot. But the thing about the Sderot shopping centers are there's bomb shelters everywhere. Just a different kind of feel than this, you know, what I'm used to. Be that as it may, fast forward to last night when I'm in the airport. And this is all just a little fun fact. Okay, for those of you who hold a credit card, there's a decent chance that you have cool perks on your credit card. Maybe we'll have a guest soon to tell us about perks on credit cards. I know Erin is an expert on that. We'll have her on. People don't realize they have this, but it's cool. If you have like let's say a Chase credit card or Capital One other credit cards, you very well might have this thing called lounge access, which for me, usually what it means when I go, like I travel like to other places, it usually just gets me a quiet place where I could daven. I could put on my tefillin and talis and be left alone. On the way out to Israel, I went to the Capital One, and I got for free a conference room. I just davened quietly and nicely there. But in Israel, it's nice because you can actually like eat there because it's kosher, and you could get a drink, you get some wine, get some beer, really nice. So I'm sitting there with my buddy last night, buddy Max, and we're just reflecting on this great trip, really great. And suddenly we hear woo, woo, woo. We hear this massively loud alarm. We heard the siren. And so everyone there grabs their stuff and just run outside. And you see the main hall, flooded with people running to the shelters. In each of the different like wings of the main terminal, there's multiple shelters. And we went in there as a big stairwell and I guess a protected area. And we waited there for 10 minutes. And it was interesting seeing some people were a little more anxious and like sprinting, some people like annoyed, some people walking, but it jolts you pretty good. You feel a good jolt of adrenaline. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I was like fearful for myself or anything, but the interesting thing that I thought about is a lot of times I feel like some of us in America who have not experienced that. Okay, so we see there's alarms, and thank God we have the Iron Dome that has, they shoot the things down, and it's okay, and Hashem protects us. But it's very disruptive, and this is what like occurred to me, and I talked to my sister about this too. Like, imagine that you have a family, a big family of young kids, and you spend an hour tucking them in. And then in the middle of the night, because the stupid Houthis always launch in the middle of the night. This one was earlier in the night, but they often do the middle of the night. So you have to wake up your kids who are crying and they're traumatized and they're half asleep. You got to move them into your safe space. Like that's awful and traumatizing and not pleasant and very, very, very disruptive. So it kind of showed me what that was like. And another interesting thing is that I saw on TikTok the leader of the Houthis take pride that he launched a ballistic missile at Ben Gurion and I guess another target in Israel, a power station near Jerusalem. And both targets, he said, were hit, which was just interesting because I was actually there. And thank God it wasn't hit. It wasn't. So if nothing else you take from this podcast episode, just take that anytime you hear the leader of the Houthis speak, take what he says with just a little grain of salt. And maybe also the Gaza Health Ministry too. So that was a very interesting experience that I don't think I haven't really told you much about yet because I was basically offline at that point for the very long flight. Yeah, so those are just some of the memories of the trip. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was really. There's probably a lot of other things that I'm missing now, but yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that. I'm sure as you're home a few more days, you'll process some more and other things will jog your memory.
Yeah, and I will say something actually interesting that I'm very proud. One of our very close students is in Israel for the year studying in a seminary. And on the first night, so she was able to join us for this little week. And for the first night, I think me and some of the guys were ready to like go out and get a beer or two or three, celebrate being in Israel. And she's like, let's go to a shir. Let's go to a class where, one of her rabbis was teaching a class in Nachlaot. And I was like half asleep and jet lagged and whatever. But it was very cool that that's like what she wanted to do. And, where the student drags her rabbi to a class, that's always a good sign. And I remember he said, I think, two things that resonated a lot with me. The first thing he said is that right now, Chanukah, it's like the season of miracles. It's a season to ask for miracles, to expect miracles, to ask for miracles. Right now, we're coming up pretty soon on night 7 of Chanukah. It's not too late. Now is the time to ask for miracles. And we need miracles. We have hostages who need to come home, and we need to beg God to release them and to ask for open miracles. So that's the first thing that I thought was very powerful. The second thing I thought was powerful, he quoted, I think, from Moshe Shapiro, which in our Al Hanisim prayer, in the Al Hanisim prayer, we talk about how God that there should be nakamta es nikmasam, take revenge. We ask God to take revenge. So what does that mean? I understand in the story of Purim, we took revenge against our enemies who wanted to genocide us and kill us. What does it mean to take revenge against the Greeks who tried to make us like assimilate out of existence? Like, what does that look like? As my buddy Alex yesterday quoted this story, I think he added this line. I thought it was clever. Like, does that mean we're going to go into Athens and like proudly like go into Athens and like take revenge? Like, no. So what it means is our mere existence is revenge enough. As my buddy Alex pointed out, the word "come" means stand up. That's in the word nakama, revenge. Just us standing up as Jews, being Jewish, being proud to be Jewish, doing mitzvahs, being in Israel, existing. That alone is the ultimate revenge. That's maybe what we're thinking about on Chanukah. Chanukah, this holiday of this mass assimilation of the Jewish people, the attempt to assimilate them completely, to have them abandon their faith and their practice. That holiday, we take revenge and we're like, no, we're going to stand tall as Jews, as proud Jews, proud to be who we are, proud of our identity. And that's what this is all about. So let us take our Jewish revenge, God willing, on these last couple of days of Hanukkah by being proud of who we are, by standing firm with who we are, and leaning into our eternal heritage and faith and people. Please, God.
Amen. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing with me and everyone, all of our many, many listeners. Thank you for joining us today. And stay tuned for our next episode.
All right. God willing, we're back. Expect an episode, please, God, once a week. Maybe sometime Thursday it'll drop. So look forward to that. And we wish you a beautiful lichtige Chanukah, Rosh Chodesh, and Zois Chanukah.
Yes. Amen.